Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Sven Gustafson. The sun is shining in Detroit's University District for your Daily Detroit, recorded on January 3rd, 2019. You know where else the sun is shining, Jer?
Where?
In our hearts.
Aww. Daily Detroit is brought to you in part by Milo Digital. Milo Digital is a full-service digital marketing agency that engineers quality results through data and innovative strategies. The sun will shine on your project if you learn more at milodetroit.com.
A ritual of regional togetherness is no more. The annual Big Four gathering of the Detroit mayor and the 3 county executives from Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb will not happen this year around the North American International Auto Show. The event is traditionally put together by the Detroit Economic Club, but the spokesperson for Oakland County Executive L. Brooks Patterson tells the Oakland Press he's not interested in doing the event, saying that it has devolved into personal attacks on the county executive. Mark Hackle, Macomb County's executive, likewise says the events, quote, went off the rails. Regional power dynamics are shifting with the rise of Detroit and young talent and employers migrating to the city and older urban areas over outer suburban ones. Inner ring suburban communities benefit from this as well, but on balance, well, they're more liberal while Patterson is a Republican. Oakland County's Board of Commissioners recently flipped to Democratic control for the first time in decades.
I think a lot of people don't even know what to make of everything happening in Metro Detroit right now. You've got Oakland County that used to be staunchly Republican going liberal, even with their congressional seats and the like. And then, I mean, who would have thought that Detroit would be such a powerhouse at the table so quickly?
So true. Well, and then don't forget Macomb County as kind of the black sheep in a way. I mean, a solid blue-collar Democratic bastion for decades, being one of the counties widely cited that tipped the election to Trump. But, you know, this sort of strikes me that maybe Brooks Patterson and Mark Hackle just aren't really popular regionally anymore. I mean, they have power bases within there. Like Mark Hackle is a popular guy. They've been reelected many times for sure. But, you know, their ideas seem to be, you know, among the wider region, they seem to be, you know, look, right or wrong, they're getting vilified for a lot of things, you know, lack of willingness to play along with regional issues.
But that also reflects, I think, a culture shift that, and maybe this is just me, I grew up in the region. I've seen a culture shift kind of like from 696 south. I can't just say the 8 Mile line because it's not that anymore, but like from 696-ish south, that is much more working on urban issues, together things. You see things like transit where it's like those southern Oakland County communities are all looking to work together on things, while up in the north, they don't really care. You look at the entrees that Ann Arbor is making around things like transit, working with Wayne County and talk that Wayne and Washtenaw might work together. I just kind of see things shifting around in a different way that I didn't expect. For so many years, for decades, it was Detroit versus the suburbs. I don't think it's that clean cut anymore.
No, probably not. But I mean, this is a clear signal that Patterson and Hackle are through arguing about transit.
A producer known for his work on the hit musical Hamilton is supporting a local youth theater program. The Seller-Lehrer Family Foundation, founded by Detroit native and Broadway producer Jeffrey Seller and his partner Josh Lehrer, has given the Mosaic Youth Theater of Detroit a $1 million grant. It'll fund their summer camp and Mosaic Experience Empowerment Program. The 5-year grant includes funds to establish an endowment and support up to 200 camp scholarships. Mosaic has been around for 27 years, and 95% of the kids in their program go on to college. We recently had the retiring founder of the Mosaic Youth Theater, Rick Sperling, on this very podcast talking about his work and legacy. We'll have a link in the show notes.
Yesterday, we brought you the bizarre tale of a 48-year-old Novi man arrested in Russia on accusations of spying. Today, there's word that Paul Whelan has been indicted on espionage charges. Reports out of Russia say Whelan is accused of obtaining state secrets. He was reportedly in a Moscow hotel room when he received a flash drive containing a list of employees who work for an undisclosed Russian agency. Federal agents stormed into his room shortly afterward and arrested him. Whelan reportedly denied the charges. His appointed lawyer has requested bail, but Whelan is expected to remain in custody through at least February. The U.S. ambassador to Russia, John Huntsman, met with Whelan at the prison where he's being held on Wednesday. If convicted, Whelan could be sentenced to as much as 20 years in prison. Whelan's twin brother has said Paul Whelan went to Moscow for a friend's wedding and had been a frequent visitor to Russia. Whelan is an ex-Marine who oversees global security for Auburn Hills-based auto supplier Borg Warner.
A couple of bits of news from General Motors. On Thursday, the automaker named Mark Royce as its new president to oversee autonomous and electric vehicle development. Royce previously oversaw the company's global product group and the Cadillac brand and will keep those roles. He built an integrated product development plan that will see Cadillac launch a new vehicle every 6 months through 2021. His new position is effective immediately and will see him double the resources devoted to electric and self-driving vehicles over the next 2 years. He replaces Dan Amon, who is now CEO of GM's Cruise autonomous vehicle subsidiary.
In related news, GM has hit a milestone of 200,000 cumulative electric vehicles sold. That's the threshold where a $7,500 federal tax credit for purchasing EVs starts to phase out. The credit will drop to $3,750 starting in April, then to $1,875 in October, and then it disappears completely by April 2020. GM becomes the second automaker after Tesla to reach the 200,000 unit threshold for EVs. Nissan and Ford are not far behind. Also on Thursday, GM reported a 2.7% decline in fourth quarter sales on sagging sales of sedans and declines for its Buick, Cadillac, and Chevrolet brands.
Wasn't it just, last month we were talking about President Donald Trump saying that he was going to end subsidies for GM in retaliation for
the plant closures.
Yeah, for the plant closures. But this is just proof that was going to happen anyway. Embattled Detroit City Councilman Gabe Leland may face a recall effort. The Detroit News reports that city resident Ramon Jackson filed a petition with the Wayne County Clerk's Office on Thursday to launch a recall bid against Leland over his federal bribery and corruption charges. Leland was indicted in October by a federal grand jury and accused of accepting $15,000 and free car repairs from a businessman. In order to trigger a recall election, the County Election Commission would need to approve a petition, and Jackson would need to gather a certain number of signatures. Leland faces charges of bribery conspiracy and 2 counts of bribery. If convicted, he could face up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine for each bribery count, plus 5 years for bribery conspiracy. We'll link to the full Detroit news story on dailydetroit.com.
Multiple outlets around town are reporting that legendary counterculture figure and marijuana advocate John Sinclair has opened a new coffee shop in Detroit. But this one has a green twist. If you don't know of the 77-year-old Sinclair, well, you should. The one-time manager of the legendary MC5 is credited by many as being the godfather of the legalization movement for marijuana in the United States. He served jail time starting in the late 60s after being caught selling 2 joints to undercover cops. But many believe he was pursued by authorities for his vocal anti-capitalist views that he held at the time. He was released in 1971 shortly after serving 2 years of a 10-year sentence, and shortly after Bob Seger, John Lennon, Yoko Ono, Stevie Wonder, and others were part of a free John Sinclair concert in Ann Arbor that also became a movie called 10 for 2. Fun fact, the free John Sinclair concert, that was John Lennon's first live performance in the U.S. after the Beatles broke up the year before. And I finally remember the posters for that concert that hung in the former Red Hot Lovers hot dog stand back in Ann Arbor, one of my favorite college haunts. Back to the coffee shop. John Sinclair Foundation Cafe and Coffee Shop will be near 7 Mile and Woodward, just a short bike ride from us here in the University District. The exact address is 18700 Woodward. It's a big, colorful building that houses a chiropractor and vegetarian cafe. You can't miss it if you're traveling north on Woodward. No marijuana will be for sale there, and the rules on public consumption of marijuana are as hazy as a cloud of weed smoke. But, considering the history we just told you about, we'll let you figure the rest out. Sinclair does hope that it will one day be a designated legal spot to smoke marijuana. He's also got a weekly radio show on Radio Free Amsterdam, and we'll have a link to that in the show notes. That's it for your Daily Detroit. Remember, there are 2 great ways to support our show. 1, tell a friend. The best way to get the word out about our podcast.
And 2, if you really like what we're doing, we have a monthly membership program with some cool gifts at patreon.com/dailydetroit. Of course, we'll link to it in the show notes.
With that, I'm Sven Gustafson.
And I'm Jer Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.